The air in Algiers sometimes carries whispers of stories untold. Stories of joy, yes, but also stories heavy with sorrow. This is one such story. It speaks of a thread once bright and strong that slowly, tragically, unraveled. It is the story of Officer Nasser, a name that once meant safety and order, a name that later became a hushed warning. His tale is a stark reminder. It shows how grief, left untended, can become a cruel master. It can lead a good man down a dark and winding path, far from the light he once knew. Nasser was a son of Algeria, a young man with a future. He wore his police uniform with pride, he served his community with dedication, but beneath the surface of every life, there are currents. Some are gentle, guiding us. Others are fierce, threatening to pull us under. For Nasser, the fiercest current was love, a deep, unwavering love for his mother. This love was his anchor. It was also in the end connected to his deepest pain. The streets of his neighborhood remember him. They remember his smile, his steady presence. Nasser was, by all accounts, a good son. His father had passed when he was young. This left him with a profound sense of responsibility towards his mother. She was his world, the sun around which his life revolved. He worked diligently, first in his studies, then in his chosen career. He joined the police force not for power, but from a genuine desire to protect, to serve the people of his city. He wanted to make his mother proud. And he did. She would often tell her neighbors about her son, the officer, her voice filled with a quiet joy. His colleagues at the precinct respected him greatly. He was known for his calm demeanor, even in difficult situations. He was fair and honest. Young recruits looked up to him. He always had a kind word or a piece of sensible advice. He was not a man of many words, but his actions spoke volumes. He believed in justice, in order, in the simple decencies of life. His uniform was always immaculate. His presence was reassuring to the community. He was a symbol of stability, a young man doing his best in a complex world. His home life was simple but filled with warmth. His mother's cooking, the scent of mint tea, the quiet evenings spent sharing stories. These were the anchors of his existence. He would bring her small gifts, listen to her worries, and share his own triumphs. Then the shadow began to fall. It started subtly. A persistent cough his mother developed, a weariness that clung to her, no matter how much she rested. Nasser at first dismissed it. Mothers were strong, especially his mother. She had weathered so much in her life already. He told himself it was just a passing cold, a touch of fatigue, but the cough lingered, and the weariness deepened. A small knot of worry began to tighten in Nasser's chest. He started taking her to doctors. Each visit brought a new wave of anxiety. Tests were done, medicines were prescribed, but her condition did not improve. Instead, it seemed to slowly, relentlessly worsen. The vibrant woman who filled their home with life began to fade. Her steps became slower, her voice softer. Nasser watched, his heart aching with a helpless fear. He spent his savings on specialists, on any treatment that offered a glimmer of hope. The day his mother passed, it was as if the sun fell from the sky for Nasser. The world, once vibrant and full of meaning, turned gray and silent. The official pronouncements, the condolences from friends and family, all washed over him like a distant, muffled sound. He moved through the rituals of mourning in a daze. The funeral, the burial, these were motions he performed, but his spirit was numb, frozen in the initial shock of her absence. The finality of it was a crushing weight, a burden too heavy to comprehend, let alone bear. The home they had shared, once a sanctuary of warmth and love, became an empty, echoing space. Her scent lingered faintly in her room, a cruel reminder of what was lost. Her favorite chair sat empty. The silence was the loudest sound. It screamed her absence from every corner, every object. Nasser would wander through the rooms, touching her things, expecting her to walk in at any moment, to call his name. The weeks turned into months. Nasser's grief did not lessen. Instead it festered, untreated, unshared. He returned to work, a shadow of his former self. His uniform, once a symbol of his dedication, now felt like a costume. He went through the motions, but his heart was not in it. His sharp mind became clouded. His calm demeanor gave way to irritability and a brooding silence. His colleagues watched with concern, their attempts to help met with a polite but firm wall of resistance. He was present physically, but his spirit seemed to have departed with his mother. He started missing shifts. First it was an occasional absence, attributed to lingering sorrow. Then it became more frequent. Excuses were made, but they were thin. The meticulous officer who never bent a rule was now bending many. His appearance, once so neat, became unkempt. There was a hollowness in his eyes, a look of profound weariness that went beyond physical exhaustion. It was the look of a man who had given up, who had lost his anchor and was now drifting aimlessly in a sea of despair. The emptiness in his home became unbearable. In his search for an escape from the crushing weight of his sorrow, Nasser began to drift into dangerous company. He found himself among men who lived on the fringes of society, men who offered a different kind of solace, the false comfort of shared vices, the temporary camaraderie of those who had also, for various reasons, turned their backs on the conventional world. These were not friends in the true sense. They were companions in oblivion, individuals who preyed on vulnerability or who were themselves lost souls, seeking to pull others down with them. He started drinking heavily. The alcohol numbed the pain, but only for a while. When its effects wore off, the grief returned, sharper and more insistent than before. Soon, alcohol was not enough. Whispers of other substances, things that promised a deeper, more complete escape, reached his ears. Desperate to silence the torment in his soul, Nasser listened. He began to experiment, stepping further into the shadows, further away from the man he once was. One cold morning, Officer Nasser did not report for duty. This time, there was no call, no excuse, however flimsy. Just an unnerving silence. His station waited. Hours passed. His colleagues, already deeply worried by his erratic behavior and long absences, felt a new kind of dread creep into their hearts. This was different. This felt final. The usual channels of communication yielded nothing. His small, sparsely furnished room, when eventually checked, was empty. It looked as though he had just walked out, but with no intention of returning. The initial inquiries were discreet. Officers who knew him well, who still held a sliver of hope for his redemption, visited his usual haunts. They spoke to his recent acquaintances, the shadowy figures he had been seen with, but they were met with shrugs, denials, or worse, a chilling indifference. No one seemed to know where Nasser was. Or if they did, they were not talking. The blue uniform, once a symbol of his identity and pride, now lay folded in his locker, a poignant reminder of the man he used to be. Days turned into weeks. There was still no sign of Nasser. The official investigation intensified, driven by a grim determination. Detectives meticulously pieced together the last known movements of the missing officer. They interviewed his new, dangerous associates again and again. Some were uncooperative. Others offered conflicting stories, deepening the mystery. The city of Algiers, a place of vibrant life, now seemed to hold its breath. The story of the missing policeman was on everyone's lips, a somber topic of conversation in cafes and marketplaces. Rumors swirled like autumn leaves in the wind. Some said he had fled the city, unable to face his demons. Others whispered darker theories, stories of debts owed to dangerous people, of quarrels that had turned violent. Then, the call came. The one everyone had been dreading. A discovery was made in a desolate, forgotten place on the outskirts of the city. The worst fears were confirmed. It was Nasser. His body, bearing the marks of violence, told a silent, brutal story of his final moments. The vibrant young officer, the devoted son, had met a tragic and lonely end, far from the warmth and respect he had once known. The news spread like a chilling wind through Algiers, extinguishing the last embers of hope. The investigation quickly led to arrests. His murderers, it turned out, were among the very people with whom he had sought solace. They were part of the dangerous company he had started keeping. During interrogation, they confessed. Their motive was chillingly mundane, a stark contrast to the depth of Nasser's prior life and suffering. A dispute over a small sum of money, a drunken argument that escalated. In his vulnerable state, weakened by grief and addiction, Nasser had been an easy target. He had sought escape and found betrayal and death instead. The city mourned, not just for the officer but for the man, for the son, for the promise that had been so cruelly extinguished. His funeral was a somber affair attended by his uniformed colleagues, their faces etched with sorrow and a grim understanding. The story of Officer Nasser became a cautionary tale whispered in the streets, a heartbreaking example of how untreated trauma can lead a good person down a path of self-destruction.